on Dear Commissioner, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to welcome you at this session of the European Union Energy Day on the UN Energy Compacts. In the EU, we believe in global action to tackle global problems, and climate change is surely one of those. This is why we have decided to dedicate a specific spot in our Energy Day to the UN Energy Compacts initiative and to have such distinguished speakers to talk about it. In this session, we will hear about the UN high-level dialogue on energy of last September and how both public and private stakeholders adhere to the Energy Compacts initiative. We will also hear about the energy compacts promoted by the European Union together with other international partners and how they will contribute to achieve the Union's climate and energy targets. But before we turn to our panel discussion, I will ask our Commissioner for Energy, Ms. Kadri Simpson, to address us. Commissioner, please.
Thank you, Massimo. Ladies and gentlemen, it's such a pleasure to open this event today in Glasgow. This is actually the last one, but definitely not the least on the EU Energy Day agenda. The European Union is committed to reach climate neutrality by 2050. Our vision is of an energy system of tomorrow based on renewables, greater energy efficiency, and a reduction of our greenhouse gas emissions by at least 55% already by the end of this decade. Leading by example, we want to foster clean energy patterns throughout the world. But the transition is also a social justice issue. And we are ready to support countries to achieve a fair and inclusive energy transition across 5 continents. We pledge that no one should be left behind as we transform the energy system. And we recognize that we have a responsibility towards the most vulnerable countries. Today is a chance to move beyond simply voicing that support. Our aim is, in fact, twofold. We are here to take stock of the UN high-level dialogue for energy and to present the outcome of this important meeting, the Energy Compacts. The EU proposed 3 energy compacts. I'll share with you the main elements of each one of them now. Our first compact is cooperation with the International Energy Agency, and this aims to put in place national zero-emission energy roadmaps by 2050 with key partner countries. The roadmaps are basic tools to plan the decarbonization of our societies. Each demonstrates pathways that ensure security of supply, growing energy access, as well as a just, socially fair transition. Our second compact was developed with the International Renewable Energy Agency to create regional energy transition outlooks for Africa, Southeastern Europe, Latin America, and the Caribbean. Using IRENA's analytical work, countries in those regions will be able to optimize energy development plans and increase investments in renewable energy projects. The energy transition needs to think beyond borders, so we are fully behind a regional approach to the work that needs to be done. By pooling resources and uniting at regional level, we will see greater flexibility and economies of scale. Our European Energy Union is one of the best examples of this way of working. Our challenges are faced together, something we have seen over recent weeks with the surge in energy prices. Each of the member states have their strengths, which are amplified when we collaborate at the EU level. Our third and final compact is the Green Hydrogen Compact Catalogue. We have worked with Denmark, Germany, IRENA, and other partners to get this up and running. Electrification alone will not be sufficient to allow us to achieve net zero. Hydrogen has the potential to decarbonize the energy-intensive sectors or transport where emissions are hard to abate. The EU has a clear strategy for how we support this industry, one we adopted in the summer of 2020. We aim to install 40 gigawatts of electrolyzer capacity capable to produce 10 million tons of renewable hydrogen by 2030. Our aim with this hydrogen compact is to boost green hydrogen worldwide by adding up commitments by national and subnational governments, businesses, international organizations, and other stakeholders. Ladies and gentlemen, I am presenting the three compacts as a beginning, not as an end to our cooperation. These compacts are a sign of commitment from the EU to support global efforts during the decade of action as we move towards net zero. Of course, we do not all have the same starting points, but even so, we should keep the destination in mind, regardless of how far along we are in our energy transition journey. I'll end my remarks here, but thank you very much for your attention, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, for outlining the EU vision and action. We will now display a video message from Ms. Damilola Ogunbiyi, CEO and Special Representative of the UN Secretary General for Sustainable Energy and for All and co-chair of the UN Energy. I would like to thank Ms. Ogunbiyi for her availability to record this message.
Speaking to you all at this gathering. I want to thank the European Commission for inviting me to speak. At the recent high-level dialogue on energy in September, the European Union demonstrated exemplary leadership by championing the critical themes of energy access and energy transition. And we're also glad to have Vice President Timmermans and Commissioner Simon express their support for the work of UN Energy at the dialogue. At the dialogue, we unveiled the energy compacts that highlighted the ambition put forward by all actors on SDG 7, including governments, companies, and multilateral stakeholders. Over 150 energy compacts were submitted for the dialogue, and more continue to come every day. Clear commitments were made, which include investments towards the target of SDG 7 and energy transition in line with the Paris Agreement. These commitments include 165 million people with new or enhanced electricity access and new financial commitments of more than 400 billion. We also appreciate the 3 energy compacts that was put forward by the EU, the compacts on green hydrogen and national zero emissions energy roadmap that EU has put forward together with the IEA, go to the heart of the integrated energy planning. The compact, in partnership with IRENA on the development of regional energy transition, is also deeply encouraged. In addition, strong energy compacts from the EU champions like Denmark, Germany, the Netherlands, and Portugal showcase innovation, leadership, and the global collaboration much needed to put us on a pathway of achieving our common goals. While I regret not being able to be with you there in person, I look forward to working with you all on our next steps on the Energy Compact process and the outcomes of the high-level dialogues and the way forward together. The EU's critical role in leading the way on global energy transitions by strong leadership at home, as well as extensive financing and technical support for developing countries around the world, is truly exemplary. The role of the EU as energy champions can be carried forward by the high-level dialogue and COP26 into the EU-AU summit, COP27 and beyond. I remain committed to working with you to make sure that these goals of providing international support to advance energy access and the just inclusive transition in your 2030 vision can be realized as efficiently and effectively as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. So we start now the panel. Because of safety reasons, we have to split the panel in two. So we have a first group of speakers. We have the Honorable Tom Alveendo, Minister of Energy of Namibia, who is connected in remote. We have Mr. Fatih Birol, Executive Director of the International Energy Agency, and Mr. Ambroise Fayol, Vice President of the European Investment Bank. We will then have additional 4 speakers, Mr. Francesco La Camera, Director General of IRENA, His Royal Highness Prince James de Bourbon de Parme, Climate Envoy for the Netherlands, Mr. Simone Mori, Head of Europe of Enel, and Ms. Amanda Peterson-Corio, Global Head of Data Center Energy from Google. So I would like to ask the panelists to try and limit your intervention to a sharp, punchy 4 minutes, and then we'll see whether we have the time to come back with additional questions. So with the permission of the Minister of Namibia, I would like to start with Mr. Birol, that has other commitments. So I would like to ask you, Mr. Birol, together with the European Commission, the IEA will implement an energy compact on developing national zero emissions by roadmaps by 2050. Can you tell us about this?
Of course, and thank you very much. Many thanks to Madam Commissioner, first of all, and to all the colleagues here. Before making a comment on the roadmap, just to tell you how grateful I am to EU that the attention for action is not only domestic oriented, but also has a global perspective in terms of the providing this support to us and other relevant institutions. Madam Commissioner mentioned nobody should be left behind. I couldn't agree more. One issue is Africa. So one of the areas that we are going to focus with this one is Africa. Let me give you one number that I find one of the most tragic numbers in the energy world. In Africa today, sub-Saharan Africa, 600 million people have no access to electricity, number one. Second, Africa is the region where you have the highest amount of solar radiation compared to nowhere else. And third, we all know that the cost of solar is very, very cheap today. So these 3 things. Yet, today, solar electricity generated in Africa is only 1/3 it is generated in United Kingdom. Think about United Kingdom. Think about the African continent. Think how sunny is UK and how sunny is the Africa. I think, and the fact that 600 million people have no access under this condition, in my view, it is very, very tragic. So it is the reason I believe the EU's efforts to help the African communities, African countries of crucial importance. Now, to finish, in May this year, IEA, we made a roadmap to net zero globally, and which is used by almost every institution in the world, the investors, companies, energy industry, governments, etc. But now several governments approached the IEA whether we can help them to have build this roadmap, the milestones, which technologies, when needs to be part of the energy world, which technologies need to phase out, and how they should be financed, a roadmap for the next 30 years. And of course, we are a modest organization with a very, very modest financial backing. And therefore, we are going to say yes now to several countries to help them to build their national domestic roadmap, starting with, just I can announce now, we are going to start with Indonesia. I just talked with the minister, very important country, because of China and India is so big, people don't know it, but Indonesia, 270 million people, economy is booming, and they are the next G20 president, and I said yes to Indonesian minister after getting the good news from my colleagues in Brussels. Many thanks for giving me this opportunity. Many thanks to Madam Commissioner for your support. And I should also thank my former colleague Metit Verstofer, who was also very helpful to make this deal done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Birol. Let me turn to Mr. Alvendo. Mr. Alvendo, Namibia has very ambitious plans for the development of renewables and for hydrogen production. And in the words of your president, wishes to become the renewable energy hub of Africa. How, in your views, the energy compact promoted by the EU and IRENA on regional energy transition outlooks, which has a special focus on African regions, could contribute to your energy objective?
Thank you very much, and let me thank the EU for inviting us to be part of this discussion. Yes, you are right. Our president have just actually the other day at COP26 announced the winner of the bid that we have issued. We have not long ago issued an RFP for international companies to work with us to develop our green hydrogen. And on Wednesday, the president have announced the winner of that. So we have got that ambition of becoming the hub on the continent, simply because we got the most renewable, whether it's wind or whether it's solar, and therefore, for that reason, we think we can really be that hub. Now, obviously, this is not just Namibia. I mean, there are so many other countries doing that. And therefore, the collaboration that is necessary for all of us to actually make sure that these goals are being reached is very, very important. The alliances that need to be formed, very, very important. And therefore, hence the importance, I think, of the European Union Compact, so that we can collaborate to make sure that we learn from each other, such that this become a global agenda and not just a one-country agenda. It's very important because we also don't want to start thinking as if we are competing or we are competitors in this space of green hydrogen. At this stage, we can't be competitors. We are collaborators, and therefore, within the compact, we're hoping that the European Union will be able to work with us so that we can learn together, so that we can learn or move much faster than as we just to be a country doing that. As it was also said, let's also continue to work on the issue of the transition being a just transition. Because it's only then when everybody somehow believes that this is a just transition, where nobody's going to feel left out, that we will be able to move the agenda forward. Because if we somehow do not really explain to the people that this is not going to, it's not a transition that's going to leave some people out and therefore to lose out, so to say, but that we're going to be an inclusive kind of development. So we are also then hoping that with the EU Compact, the issue of inclusiveness will also be addressed. We learn as we go on. And this is very, very important. So really, I think the journey that we've undertaken is a journey that can only really work when we collaborate globally and also regionally. For example, in our region, the previous speaker just mentioned the fact that Africa has got probably the best renewable resource in terms of solar and wind. And yet the renewable energy that Africa produces right now is a fraction of what the UK will be producing. So within the region as well, we are also forming alliances to make sure that the renewable energy that we're going to be producing is not only for Namibia, but also for the region. And therefore, that regional collaboration is so equally important to make sure that becomes regional issues. So really all I can say is to thank the EU and hoping that the EU will continue to work with us on this journey to ensure that Namibia's goal of becoming the hub on the continent for green hydrogen is realized. And certainly we wish that you continue to collaborate with us. And therefore, let me just thank you for inviting us to make our case. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. Let me turn now to Mr. Fayol, Vice President of the EIB. We heard in these couple of days that money is not short, but there are problems of investability in the energy transition. So in your views, what are the main obstacles to upscale the clean energy investments, especially in the development countries?
So thank you. Thanks a lot for the invitation. Thank you, Commissioner, for your remarks also in opening this session. EIB is the bank of the European Union. So we are a public bank which is in a big exercise of transforming itself into becoming the EU climate bank. And in doing that, we are increasing significantly the volume of what we are financing for climate action and environmental sustainability. We are also aligning much more. Actually, our projects have been aligned with the Paris Agreement for as of now. So in 2021, all the projects we finance are Paris aligned. And what we have announced here in Glasgow is that as of the 1st of January 2022, not only the projects have to be Paris aligned when they are financed by EIB, but also there is a need for an alignment of the counterparts that we are financing, so that you are not financing basically green projects for counterparts that are not Paris aligned or under very strict conditions. And this is a journey that is going to move us forward. And I think on energy projects it is especially important. We are also having an adaptation plan. That is the first time we have that, because adaptation is becoming a bigger and bigger part of the climate agenda. I would say, and actually we have co-led one of the technical reports on the UN high-level dialogue. So the lessons that I've learned from this exercise, I would say three things in terms of which are the main obstacles. The first one is financial institutions need to align energy financing with all dimensions of the Paris Agreement. And that means we have done that already, that reaching net zero targets implies phasing out the financing of new energy projects reliant on unabated fossil fuels. And the report invites all the financial institutions to do that as soon as possible. The second thing is to build a robust pipeline of de-risked projects that can attract private capital. So the issue is also the issue of leveraging and crowding in capital with what we can that we can help to. There are clearly the need to do that, especially in developing countries, especially in Africa, where we can have. I mean, we have a lot of project preparatory facilities. But we need to do more, and we need to also do more on the cost of this work and the cost of financing, or the cost of, or the issue of local currency financing, for example. All this is moving in the right direction in the NDB community, but we need to do more. And finally, we need to make better use of blended financing schemes I mean, blending commercial lending with grants, with technical assistance, concessional loans and guarantees is something that also can help bring the needed volumes that we are expecting. So the EU has set a new instrument that is called NDC, the instrument for financing or co-financing with grants outside of the European Union, and EIB will be one key implementing partner. That's clear. We are with this kind of instrument helping, for example, finance rural electrification in Africa with other promotional banks, be them multilateral or national, and blended with grants from the European Union. I mean, the trillions of dollars in investment that are needed can be supported by scaling up the use of blended instruments. So I'll stop there, but there is a momentum that we need really to continue. I would just say in closing two remarks. One, we need also not to forget innovation and the financing of innovation. And when you look at the way EIB worked in energy sector within Europe, what we have done 20 years ago, we were big in financing onshore wind farms. Not anymore at all. I mean, 10 years ago, because that was at the time technologically complicated. 10 years ago, we were big in financing offshore wind farms. We are continuing to do that because they are extremely costly, and sometimes there is a need to have a contribution from EIB. But technologically, this is not something where we are really needed in terms of expertise or the cost of capital. We are now moving to the new projects, which are offshore floating wind farms. And that is also the future, probably. But at this stage, this is very risky, and this is very costly. And this is where I think public banks are very needed. And public banks are also needed in other, and I close there, in another way. Look at what has been announced here in Glasgow about the support to the energy transition in South Africa. The European Union is a big part of it. And I think this is also where we can show that we can help with a combination of financing and expertise that is certainly needed to support those countries willing to move in this direction.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Let me ask a very short follow-up question to Minister Alveendo. You mentioned yourself, Minister, that your country has important plans for hydrogen production. Can you tell us a little bit more about this? Is not there. Okay. But I hoped it was. Then I think that we close the first panel here, and we will change the speakers. So you can start. Wait a second that we start the video. Thank you very much. So we are back with our second panel. So let's continue on the same way as the previous one. So let me ask first of all Mr. La Camera, Director General of IRENA. So your organization was very active in mobilizing action at the UN high-level dialogue on energy and submitted alone and together with other partners more than 10 compacts. Could you explain us how you view your energy compacts and in particular those that you fostered, and how can you boost the transition towards a more sustainable global energy system and the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goal number 7?
How many hours are you?
4 minutes.
I'm joking. I know that time is short. So that's really a pleasure to be here for the second time for the EU Energy Day. It's absolutely a pleasure to stay with friends. So I think that all the COP has been discussing this 1.5. It seems that finally the 1.5 is at the center of all the action. That's good. And trying to identify a possible path coherent with this objective, this is the reason for us to have released our World Energy Transition Outlook earlier this year. And the Outlook say very clear what has to be done for maintaining our economies and energy system in line with the 1.5. But naturally, the scenario are scenario. After that, we have to understand how we can put in practice on the ground what we have promised to do, or what we think that has to be done for getting the result that we all wish. So that's the reason we have been extremely, pleased with our partnership with the European Union through the Energy Compact. I think that you have talked about. I think there are 12 compacts. The agency is part, but this is the one that we have developed with the European Union are particularly important for us. Why? Because the World Energy Transition Outlook is meant to build a pathway that is for all the world. But the way to stay in that pathway inevitably will be different when we talk about different regions of the world. So we have different characteristics, different realities that we have to take into account when we decide our policies and our investments. So the idea of granulating the World Energy Transition Outlook in various regional energy transition outlook for us is very relevant. And this work with the US allow us to work on Southeast Europe, Africa, Latin America, and the US itself. So what is important, why? Because often if you go investigate in detail what is behind the commitment and the promises, not always you find a clear plan to get what we have promised. And also the way the multilateral bank are taking decision on investment, how the money is moving from one part of the world to the other. All say that there is a lot of liquidity, that the money is there. So the question is that the investors not always have not only a clear legal framework, but also a clear planning behind to understand exactly where the money could better fit in the context of the domestic goals. So it's very important for us that we finally may have for 5 regions of Africa, for South America, for East Europa, say exactly where the priority are if you want to get to the 1.5 for that region. What are the policies that are necessary to enabling environment for investment? And this will be done in a more specific way. And to accompany this, we are also trying to join with the large, the large country like India, like Indonesia, and like China, to make this exercise to identify with clarity, to respond to the future energy system, what are the steps that have to be taken in that particular reality. As I told you this morning, there is no doubt, and I can bet, I don't know all, that we are going to an energy system that will be dominated by renewables and complemented by green hydrogen and sustainable biomass. So this will happen because the market is going there. If you look at the dynamic of the prices, there is no other way. But the fact is that the market is guiding us to a new energy system. But the fact is that is not guiding the economies speedy enough for be coherent with the 1.5. So this way to put in practice, to trying to identify what has to be done in concrete is relevant for us. And the compact of we did with the European Commission give also the possibility to work on the continental plan. So the Africa continental plan. So Africa has decided that IRENA has to work on modeling the Africa continental plan. So I think this is a good achievement that may give more strength to the work that we have decided to go together. And in this we have already experimented the collaboration with the EU TAF in Africa, so we know that we can do things. So my last thought in the 4 minutes, that what is important for us to remember that this compact put us in track to transform commitment in action on the ground. So that's the sense of the high value of the work that we are conducting together with the European Commission and the European Union then. Grazie.
Thank you, Francesco. So, Prince, what can be done to ensure access to sustainable energy in developing countries? What can the Netherlands do for that? What do you do with your compact?
Very good, and it's good to be with all of you here. And it's a 5th day on the COP, and as climate envoy of the Netherlands, we're on one side on the negotiation side, and we see the COP, the negotiations happening. We have 2 years mixed in one, so we have many more issues on the agenda, but it's moving forward. So we're actually seeing COP is working, and let's see what comes out of it. But we're midway, we have a lot of energy. But here we see, on the other side of the COP, we see all these voluntary initiatives. We see on the methane pledge, we see a forest pledge, we see all these things happening. And here in this European pavilion, we're talking about energy. And energy is often taken for granted. It's something we know, and as we just heard from Mr. Birol, 600 million people in Africa don't have access to energy. I used to work for the UN Refugee Agency and worked on the energy transition. And we had 80 million forcibly displaced people in the world. 90% of them don't have access to energy. And with my neighbor here, we've been, I'll move closer so you can see him. We've been in contact as well, and we've been talking, how can we create programs and business models for access to energy in even the toughest places on Earth. A refugee, just think of the situation. UN agencies around the world, they have a lot of emissions. So while they're doing good, because they're in the middle of nowhere, they have a lot of power they have to diesel power, etc., to be able to do the work for diesel generators, etc. So we have to go off dirty diesel to do good. So that's happening in the UN system. Governments are doing the same thing. The second thing is that you need the refugees to have some energy. They go out to cut wood. And they burn the wood to cook or to heat themselves. That has to stop as well. It's really bad for the environment. So clean cooking solutions and clean electricity is essential. Then you have women have to go out for firewood every day and for water. In Chad, the sad story is that 90% of the rape cases is women going out every day, the same route, to get fire and wood. So if you have clean cooking solutions, electricity back in the camp to pump water and to have, that's going to be the difference as well. Connectivity also gives access to online education, online finance, online jobs. We all know that. And that is what we're discussing here today. So the Netherlands has underlined that this is very important to reach a climate goal where nobody is left behind on energy access. And we have a global compact which is for low and middle income countries. And as a global champion, our next step is to align our energy finance with this roadmap. So we'll be talking to our international partner institutions, such as the MDBs, to be aligned with this goal. Also Team Europe and the UN energy agencies to align with us. I have a short video that kind of shows what the compact is about. Maybe we show it right now and then I'll wrap up. Please.
Clean and affordable energy is essential for everyone, at home, work and school. However, still 800 million people worldwide don't have access to electricity, complicating their daily lives. Additionally, nearly 2.6 billion people lack clean cooking solutions, causing 4 million yearly deaths from household air pollution. Ensuring clean and affordable energy for everyone, everywhere, is paramount in solving global challenges. Over 25 Dutch public and private organisations, knowledge institutes and NGOs have partnered up in the NL Energy Compact to contribute to the UN's Sustainable Development Goal 7, affordable and clean energy for all. By 2030, the partnership aims to bring sustainable electricity access to 100 million people and clean cooking to 45 million people in developing countries. The partnership aims to double job opportunities for women and youth. This is done through international programs with local partners, where various experience and expertise is shared. By combining strengths and mobilizing investments together, we create innovative solutions and track progress. We encourage more Dutch organisations to join the coalition. The NL Energy Compact hopes to inspire other countries to form similar partnerships. By joining forces and sharing insights, we can make the energy transition just and inclusive, leaving no one behind. Let's drive clean and affordable energy to everyone, everywhere.
So in short, we have 45 million people who need access to electricity. 100 million people can double job opportunities. Mostly women and youth will benefit. So it's a real call for action within the European family for other nations to join this effort. And just here on the COP again, back to the negotiations, the more solidarity we show to the global south for a just transition in general, for climate, the more support we will get for our general goals. Because for them it's so much easier, more difficult to move, and they haven't contributed to the CO2 challenge, but they're feeling the effects. So we're noticing that here, and that sense of justice will get credibility and trust in the negotiations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Well, let's change slightly point of view. We've heard from international institutions, we've heard from countries what they do. Let's move to the private sector, and let me ask Simone Mori, Vice President of Enel for Europe, how can private companies contribute to the Paris goal and to the Sustainable Development Goal 7?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, it's a great honor for me to be part in this panel. I think that there is a very simple answer to your question. It's doing our job. Basically, doing what we do currently, which is the idea of bringing decarbonization through the technology that we master all around the world. I mean, operate in 5 continents, 40 countries, basically focusing in 2 major activities: developing renewables and bringing through electrification this renewable clean energy to as many customers as possible. And when dealing with the emerging countries especially, sometimes we have the impression that there is some kind of contradiction, tension between the objective of growing or guaranteeing an economic growth and the objective of having a sustainable growth. It's not a contradiction, it's an end, it's not an error. There is no way to, well, as Francesco said, I mean, it's very important. There is a way to give energy to emerging countries which is cheaper than renewables. In large part of the world, this is, you know, Sub-Saharan Africa, Southern East Africa, and some part of Latin America. That's clear. I don't want to say it's a no-brainer, but that's clear. In these countries, there is not the need to undergo through a quite complex transition going from a technological platform to another one. I mean, many of these countries don't have to shut down, you know, big old coal plants. Some of them, yes, but many of them need a cheap and green energy to feed the incremental needs. So according to many forecasts, Sub-Saharan Africa will need more than the double of the energy is consuming today in a decade. So we have to focus on incremental needs, starting from the point of view that the technology is there. And what is the problem? Well, it has been mentioned a couple of times. The problem basically is how to create conditions for investibilities in many of these countries. And this is, I would say, the main priority, because as it has been said, technology is there, money is there, there's a lot of money around. We have to create the condition in order to make these investments easily handleable on the side of private sector by reducing country risks, by reducing counterparty risk. We basically know how to do as a company, and this is probably the second contribution we may provide, is putting together the experiences we had in many countries all around the world, trying to address the policy making issues, which are very, very important. Because if you create the right local condition in order to promote this kind of investment, they will come. We participated and we are promoting, for example, a platform. Madam Commissioner knows it very well, because we had a chance to present to the European Commission, also to her personally, the idea of this platform, which is basically, we call together with other partners, including the European Bank of Investment, the Renew Africa. So the idea of creating a common framework which, based on the experience, major companies and financial institutions and think tanks grow around the world, may enable countries accepting this model to host investments in a quite short period of time. We believe that this, of course, we have no time to go into the details, but it's, again, as I said, it's not rocket science. It's quite well known mechanism. What we have to do is to implement this, and we are pretty much optimistic that the investment will come massively, and actually that the European experience, in terms of technology, in terms of global leadership of the utility sector, may really play a fundamental role in this journey. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Simone. Let me turn to our fourth speaker, who is remote. I hope this time she's there, and we don't have the same hiccup that we had before. Google is a big energy user on the other side, but you have the ambition to operate carbon-free by 2030. Can you tell us how you are going to reach such an ambitious target? Amanda, please.
Sure. Yes, and thank you for the question. It's an honor to be here today. I think there's an important role that corporations can play in a just transition to a carbon-free future, and that's really creating global demand so that the market for clean energy is not just in some markets, but it's everywhere in the world. And Google is one of the largest private purchasers of renewable energy in the world. In 2017 and every year since, we achieved what many companies call 100% renewable energy, which means that we purchase enough renewable energy on an annual basis around the world to match our global electricity consumption. But we realized early on that while this was an important milestone, it's not enough to fully decarbonize our own electricity consumption. And that's because there are still times of the day and still places in the world where we continue to rely on fossil fuel. And that's why last year we made our commitment to operate on 24/7 carbon-free energy everywhere we operate by 2030. We submitted an energy compact to UN Energy detailing how we're going to achieve it. And it's really through three main pillars. The first starts with innovating the way that we purchase clean energy. We'll continue to sign more contracts directly to buy renewable energy, but we also need to work with the ecosystem, and we need to work with our suppliers to deliver more innovative structures that can deliver clean energy, not just some of the time, but all the time. For example, this year we worked with our electricity suppliers in the US and in Europe to deliver a portfolio of projects, solar and wind and storage and run river hydro, to provide hourly clean energy to our data centers where we operate. The second pillar is we absolutely need to catalyze the development and the commercialization of new technologies if we're going to see a fully decarbonized grid in the future. An example of how we're doing that is to really push on the importance of commercialization of these new technologies. And this year we signed the first corporate agreement of a next generation geothermal project to really show and prove out the technology that's going to be always on and help to balance and be part of the system. We're also looking at what we can do on our end and how we can make our own electricity demand more flexible. And that we're doing that by creating carbon-aware computing platform that can shift certain types of compute jobs, both in time and in location, in order to move them to the times when the grid is green and is producing carbon-free energy. So we're running those tasks on carbon-free energy at all times. And finally, I think the most important solution that we've heard from many other panelists today is we have to build partnerships with others. And we need to use our voice to advocate for strong policies for decarbonization. We recognize that we alone can't do this, that we're going to have to work with other corporations, governments, the companies making these innovative technologies if we're going to see the change on the grid. And that's why we worked with Sustainable Energy for All and UN Energy to develop the 24/7 Carbon-Free Energy Compact. This is a multi-stakeholder compact that will help orient the ecosystems to global decarbonization. And we're excited that 40 companies and organizations and governments have now signed the compact. And we encourage all stakeholders to join us in making 24/7 carbon-free energy a reality across the globe. I'd like to thank Sustainable Energy for All and UN Energy for their leadership in developing the energy compacts, because these are important instruments to advance communities across the energy industry and raise the level of ambition that we're trying to get to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we have come to the end of our session. Let me thank, first of all our distinguished speakers, Commissioner Simpson, Special Representative Ogun Biyi for their speeches. I think today the discussion confirms the introduction that we made. As President von der Leyen said, climate change is the defining challenge of our time. And as we heard throughout the debate this afternoon, no country and nobody and no company can solve it alone. So I think that this working together in the energy sector, both on the producing side but also on the user side, is particularly important for the reduction of the CO2 emissions. And this is where I think this UN Compacts initiative comes really into play. From our side, with the European Green Deal from the European Union, we have joined the fight of climate change to growth, as also many of you have underlined. And the bold commitments that we have made for ourselves and that we have also tried to export, I think will inspire discussion for the future. Thank you very much again to all of you for today's.